Chairman asked why the administration sending TSA personnel to the border. Why they sending TSA personnel to the border? Because there's a crisis. Just a few months ago, they had, in one drug seizure, enough fentanyl to kill 57 million Americans. Last month alone, the month of May, 144,000 apprehensions on the border. And he's asking why we're sending people down. Because it's a crisis. What's the Democrats' response? The Speaker of the House said walls are immoral. Congressman Blumenauer said abolish ICE. And there's been a supplemental waiting for 6 weeks to address the crisis. That's the problem. And he criticized the administration for trying to do anything and everything they can do to deal with this humanitarian crisis on the border. Give me a break. Mr. Chairman, TSA has an important mission to keep Americans safe in airports and in the air. We rely on TSA always to be one step ahead of those who want to do us harm. However, we've learned, as you said earlier in your statement, from GAO and the Inspector General that TSA can improve how it evaluates its own security vulnerabilities. I look forward to hearing from Administrator Pekoski about how TSA can use the work of GAO and the Inspector General to better secure our country. Aviation security is just one part, though, of securing our homeland. Another key part is where I started, border security. I want to extend my appreciation to the men and women of TSA and all the DHS components who have volunteered to go to the border and help address the crisis. There's no other word for it, the crisis. Several weeks ago, Acting Secretary McAleenan testified to the Senate Judiciary Committee. Think about this. The DHS, he said, quote, identified almost 4,800 migrants this year presenting as family units that were determined to be fraudulent. He testified that they uncovered, when we talk about humanitarian crisis, think about this. They uncovered child recycling rings, innocent children being used multiple times to help different adults gain illegal entry into the country and then be released. He also mentioned an example of Custom and Border Patrol officials speaking to a man who confessed to not being the father of the child he had in his custody. That man told officials he paid the mother of the child $80 to take her child so that he could gain entry, be released into the country, because he knew that under U.S. law he would be released into the interior of the United States in 20 days. But for 6 weeks, there's been a supplemental appropriations bill sitting there that the Democrats won't pass. That child was 6 months old. The acting secretary also said that in the 40 days prior to his testimony, 60,000 children entered DHS custody. And we're going to criticize the administration for trying to get as many people there as we can to help with this crisis. I want to commend my colleagues from Texas, Mr. Cloud and Mr. Roy, for taking a leadership role in highlighting the emergency on our border. We must get this crisis at the border under control. But it seems to me my colleagues in the majority are too preoccupied criticizing the president, criticizing the administration, too preoccupied with trying to decide whether they're going to impeach or not, to actually focus on the problem. Maybe we should just focus on the problem, forget about the personalities, and help these kids, help this situation. I urge my colleagues here today to do whatever we can, stand up for strong border security so that we can bring an end to, as I've said now several times, what everyone in this country understands is a crisis.